topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Hello and welcome to the Connected Table Live. We're your hosts, Melanie Young and David Ransom, your insatiably curious culinary couple. We love to travel the world to bring you the amazing people and places we visit, the wines we drink and the foods we eat, and stories to share to get you on the road and traveling with us. You're listening live today on W4CY Radio, and you can hear all our shows anytime, anywhere on demand on more than 65 podcast channels, YouTube, and of course, please follow us at The Connected Table on Instagram and check out our blog, The Connected Table. So where are we, David, based on the background?
We're in Tuscany today, Melanie.
Right.
And that is a beautiful shot of the Castello Nipozzano, which is one of the most famous wineries in Tuscany. And it's actually located in an area of Tuscany called Rufina, which is about 20 miles outside of the city of Florence.
Why don't we just start with this since we're here?
Yeah.
So we're taking you on a journey today. We're going to do prison to castle, but we're going to do castle to prison. We're going to end up in prison. So just to whet your appetite. Nipozzano means water without a well, I believe is what it means. It's a very historic fortress that protected Florence back in the ancient times and started making wine in the Renaissance. In fact, many famous artists were patrons of the Nipozzano wines, right, David? And then I'm pulling up my notes, 1855, the renowned noble family Frescobaldi acquired Nipozzano. Frescobaldi has, I think, 7 or 8 estates throughout Tuscany and a beautiful Palazzo Frescobaldi in Florence. It's now over 30 generations at Frescobaldi, Marchese Frescobaldi. So this is probably, they're all beautiful, right?
They are.
But we've only been to one.
Well,
or I've only been to one. Have you been to any other Frescobaldi
I've been
properties?
we've been to a couple of them. We've been to...
I haven't. You have. Well, no, the one we're going to talk about next is not different. I don't know.
Well, I've actually been to three of the 8 properties, yes.
Oh, well, David's special. So he has. Melanie hasn't. But this was great. So Rufina is interesting because it's about 20 minutes drive from Florence. So that makes it an amazing day trip, particularly when you want to get out of the heat of Florence, which is what we did in June, right?
Correct.
And also, it is a beautiful region. In fact, I think it's like 15,000 visitors a day, or a year in Nipozzano. So it's a very big place to visit.
Very
there
true.
are accommodations, not that we stay there.
But we
ate.
But we were there for lunch.
Yeah, we were there for lunch. They have terrific. So Nipozzano is not just a wine estate. It actually is the largest producer of wine in Rufina. Rufina is Chianti DOC Rufina, to be exact, one of the small Chianti regions. As I said, 20 minutes from Florence. The castle is very historic. You can tour it by appointment. You can stay in, I think there's like 15 rooms.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And a restaurant called Il Cortino, where you can have really great burgers, because not only do they cultivate wine here, but olive groves and Chianina cattle. So we were there for the wine, and we were there for an afternoon. And let's talk about the wines. Let's talk a little bit more about it. So over time in marriages, the estate grew. And as we said, it's like it's over 1 million bottles a year. So it produces much of the wine in Rufina. And most of it is Sangiovese. However, the Frescobaldis were very forward thinking, and they started planting international varieties as well. And they make one of the most renowned Super Tuscans in Rufina, Morametto. So we did a tour with the winemaker, the Frescobaldi winemaker, for Lorenzo Portaro. We went up to let's just talk about the Rufina region and what makes it unique and why the wines are known for their incredible freshness.
Well, it's up the Arno River, so it's in the Arno River Valley, but it's a fairly high elevation in the area as well.
Right.
And so you're up above the river probably a mile, maybe a little more up above that, on kind of plateaus and rolling hills above the Arno River. Very strategic place as well for people that were traveling back and forth, and for armies that were trying to conquer things back in the day. So Nipozzano, sitting up high up on a hill, had a great vantage point in each direction up the river valley and down the river valley. So it's actually a very historically, I can't remember the word.
It was a fortress. It had a strategic point in the route because the Apennines, the Apennine Mountains, which are the spine of Italy, are right behind us. So the breezes come in through the different caverns of the Apennines, and as a result, these hilltop vineyards, I think the highest one we went to in Nipozzano was 500 meters. They have amazing diurnal weather shifts. You get cooling breezes. You have these wonderful multi-soiled terroir of clay, schist, sandstone, and marl.
Yeah.
And when we went up to I think it was the Morameto vineyard and the Montessori vineyard, two of the crew vineyards of Nipozzano, you could feel that breeze coming in, which was great because it was like bloody hot in Florence, right? Really, really hot. So Lorenzo Portaro is the winemaker for Frescobaldi. He took us on a tour, which included walking around the structure of Nipozzano, where you could see where it was, a fortress. And during the war, World War II or I and II, it actually was hit. You could see where bullet holes had hit the fortress, and they had to do some rebuilding. So there's a lot of rebuilding done. As we said, Nipozzano means without a well, which refers to the dry conditions in this area.
It was also occupied by the Nazis during the World War II. And when they left, they basically destroyed a lot of the Castello.
Yeah.
So they had to rebuild the entire Castello.
Yeah.
When the Frescobaldi family had to do that after World War II. And they've done a beautiful job, but there's actually, you can see some of the old castle as well as obviously the new castle that they put back together.
I think one of the really fun things, walking around the castle and looking at the old and the new, it's massive and it's really impressive. And yes, you can visit. Then we went to the underground cellars, which were incredible. They're very old and ancient. And of course, what was fun, I think, for both of us was seeing the Frescobaldi family's private cellar. Again, this is a family that had spent over 30 generations. We were with Lamberto Frescobaldi, one of his properties earlier before we came to Nipozzano, and he's the 30th generation. I think they're like 33 now.
Something like that.
Something like that. But
it's interesting that each family member has a section of the personal Frescobaldi wine cellar where they keep stocks of their own wine. Depending on how old they are, they probably go back a number of years and decades.
In fact, we saw, who was it? We saw it at Italy. The daughter, Lamberto's daughter, had a beautiful wedding there. And it's a beautiful place. So you can visit, you can stay. You can do tours and tastings, and then you can go and have dinner at Il Cortino, which is like a burger place. I had a good vegetarian burger, but it's really about the burgers, and it's very, very casual. So we tasted 3 wines. First of all, let's just talk about Portaro. He was trained. He went to the University of Dijon. He worked in Bordeaux. He worked in Australia, which is very customary for a lot of Italian winemakers that go to France and Australia to learn, and often United States.
And winemakers in general, like to travel the world to wet their chops a little bit.
It's really important. Then he came back. He said that he likes to work on reductive winemaking, which, to preserve the wine's freshness. Again, Rufina is known for very fresh fruit, and not overly extracted. So longer lees aging and gentle extraction of tannins. And you can taste it in the wines. I think we tasted 3, maybe 4. I think we tasted 2 vintages of wine. But let's talk about, David, I'll let you talk about the 3 wines.
Well, we tasted all reds, first of all. And some were Chianti Rufina, which is the region, and then others were sourced. They were all sourced from there, but another one was what I think they call their Super Tuscan, which is an IGT wine, Indicazione Geographica Tipica, which means they can pull it from anywhere they want to make the wine, even though the wine that we tried was IGT Toscana,
Right.
was all grown on the estate itself.
Right.
So that was the Morometto, which is, I think they're super Tuscan from this area. And but let's start with the Nipozzano Chiantis.
Yeah.
The Chianti Reserva and the Chianti Rufina.
I'm pulling up my notes.
Yeah. So one of them was the Chianti Rufina, which is the traditional wine of the estate, which is predominantly growing Sangiovese with these other varieties that we're talking about that have been planted and are also being used to make wine. But mostly Sangiovese is grown in Rufina, and that's really the hallmark wine of the region is Chianti Rufina with a majority of Sangiovese in it. This one is 80% Sangiovese. And then the other 20% is other native varietals and some international red varietals, the ones that we talked about earlier, like Cabernet and Merlot, things like that, Petit Verdot, etc.
Yeah, and the Frescobaldis were among the first to plant international varieties
Correct.
in this region.
Yeah.
So the next wine was Montesodi. So Montesodi is a Terrolecti Reserva. So let's just talk about that, because during Anteprima Toscana, we went to a Terrolecti dinner. It's like a new term, because the trend is to have cru wines and subdivide the wines even more in all the different areas. So you've got Gran Selezione, and you've got Pieve and Montepulciano. In Rufina, they terra electi, Terrelectae, which basically means cru wines, and the wines must be 100% Sangiovese and aged for a minimum of 30 months. So very specific guidelines for this wine. The grapes are sourced from the Montesodi vineyard, which is at about 350 meters, or 400 meters, sorry. And it was a beautiful wine. Sangiovese, you've got those dry cherry notes and fresh berries and orange peel, which is what I love about Sangiovese, a little spice, really lovely. And all these wines had a really nice long finish and gentle tannins. But the best seller is the Morometto, which is the IGT Toscana, so the Super Tuscan. I think that's like what they sell, like, I don't know. I may have had too many zeros on my notes, but a lot of wine. This is a big seller.
It is. It's their most popular wine that they sell, especially to Americans.
Mm-hmm.
So the Morometto we tasted the 22 vintage,
right.
Was delicious. 60% Cabernet Sauvignon, 20% Petit Verdot, 15% Sangiovese, and 10% Cabernet Franc.
I love Cabernet Franc. That was a beautiful wine.
Yeah, there's been Cabernet grown in Tuscany for probably 200 years.
Yeah.
Cabernet Franc and Cabernet Sauvignon.
So what's nice is at Il Cortino, you can try all the wines from Frescobaldi, not just Nipozzano. As we said, they have lots of estates, including Tenuto Parano, Castelgiacondo, which is in Montalcino. I think I have been to that one. Castiglione, Castello Pomina, Amaraglia, which I don't know that one very well.
I've been to that one.
Okay, you've been to that one.
It's over in the Maremma.
Okay, yeah. I've not been to that one. Calamaio and Romoli. So Nipozzano is the crown jewel. It's spectacular. Let's just move our heads. You can see it better. See, it's really quite beautiful. So and as we said, it's 15,000 visitors a year. So it's also one of the top attractions outside of Florence. And if you are going to Florence, it's very easy to get there. We do recommend hiring a driver. They can probably arrange a driver. Our driver was great. It was arranged for us. He seemed to know everything about the area. I forgot his name, but he was great. But that's a great way to tour. There are other wineries in Rufina. We haven't really done an extensive tour of this area, just Nipozzano. We hope to do that in another visit to Tuscany.
Yeah, it was actually my first trip into Rufina from Florence. And it's I never realized how close it was. So it's a really quick, easy trip to get up there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of wineries in Rufina, not just Frescobaldi and not just Castello Nipozzano.
Yeah.
There's a number of producers in the region, and they all make wonderful wine.
And it's quite pretty to drive up. You go along the Arno River, and it was charming. It reminded me, David, of like when we lived in New York City, and then we would leave and go to the Hudson Valley. And suddenly when we hit like Bear Mountain, we were in the country, and it was like a world away from New York City. And you were like, wow, this is beautiful. And it's so close. That's kind of how it reminded me when you left Florence, which is very busy and touristy and beautiful and wonderful. And then selling your Rufina. There's a couple of wonderful places like that, like Colli-Fiorentini, just all those little Chianti DOCs around Florence are easy to get to, and you can have incredible day trips and wonderful wines.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So This visit was part of literally 2 days, 3 days with the Frescobaldis. And what precipitated is we were over in Italy for some other trips, and we had this rare opportunity to visit a project that we've actually covered on this show with Lamberto Frescobaldi a couple of years ago, and had never visited. He'd come to New York and he presented the wines, which you're going to talk about. And this island is only open to invited visitors 1 day a year in June. Now, Juan, our engineer, is going to put the photo up of this island with its pretty buildings slowly. Here it is. So look at this. So you look at this, and doesn't this look like just a beautiful vacation spot?
It sure does.
In fact, you posted this, and one of your relatives said, "Wow, where is this?
Yeah, how can I go there?"
Yeah. The thing is, to go there, you have to commit a crime because it's a prison. This is the a prigione. This is the island of Gorgona, which is a federal penitentiary off the coast of Livorno. So to get here, well, first of all, to get here and live there, you have to commit a crime because it's seasoned criminals. But 1 day a year, they open this island up to journalists and VIPs in the wine trade because there's a wine produced here under the supervision of Lamberto Frescobaldi and the Frescobaldi family as part of a major social impact project. So we were really excited to have this chance because you can only do it once a year. So it's really beautiful. So how did we get there? We went to Livorno, which is amazing. I'd never been to Livorno. Had you, David?
It's like the Venice of Tuscany.
Yeah, and it has a really great history.
It's a port town on the west coast of Tuscany on the Tyrrhenian Sea, and there's a lot of shipping done there as well. But it also has a tremendous amount of canals that were built into the city, basically to make the city larger and whatnot. So they've got a lot of canals that you can tour around. We did a boat tour at night of the canals of Livorno. It was really quite fun. So
we can take the photo down so people can see us. But what was neat about Livorno before we get, so we spent a night in Livorno, and there's a lot of history there. It was home of an old Jewish ghetto, one of the biggest Sephardic Jewish populations in Italy, which I didn't know, and an incredible Livornese cuisine. We had a fish stew there. So it's a seaport, so you're going to get a lot of great fish. There was a dish there, I can't pronounce it, kakasu. I don't know the pronunciation. It's a fish stew. It is a savory fish stew with mullet and shellfish and squigili.
A lot of calamari as well.
And a lot of calamari in a dark, what I call roux here in New Orleans, savory, saffron-laced, tomato-based
sauce. Yeah.
Just one of the best dishes ever. And I got to get a recipe. I just have to get a recipe. I wish we'd had a little more time in Livorno. We did this beautiful night tour. We had this stew. And then the next day we boarded a boat, just us, and took about, how long was that ferry ride, David?
About an hour and a half.
About an hour and a half.
That Livornese stew that we had reminded me of a dish that my mother used to make when I was young.
Really?
She'd make it from scratch all the time, and we had it all the time. It was squid in that type of tomato sauce over pasta. It was just a delicious dish, and my mom loved to make it, and we loved to eat it.
Well, it was more savory than a bouillabaisse. Yeah. It was unbelievable, and I got to get a recipe. So we took a ferry. Gorgona is a federal penitentiary in the Tuscan Archipelago National Park. So it is a beautiful area, but as we said, it's either prisoners or the guards, or sometimes prisoners' families. Although we learn a lot of the prisoners want to go there because it is beautiful, but they don't want their family to know they're there because they don't want to create shame on the family. So they don't want their families, the villagers, to know they're in prison. So it's a very, when you land, when the boat lands at the dock, there are just a lineup of armed guards.
Well, for us, there was.
Yeah, I think there was a little pomp and circumstance. The mayor,
of course there was.
The head of the prison was there. Lamberto Frescobaldi was there. Now he's the 30th generation. What was amazing about it was like we got a packing list and a dress code, and it said in capital, "You're going to a penitentiary. You must dress conservatively." And I think they were talking like women don't wear tank top, don't do anything to attract attention. So I looked like I was going on a safari. I was totally covered up, and it was hotter than Hades.
It was a hot day.
Yeah. So here's the cool thing. it was how many years ago? I'm not sure how many years ago. This is not too long ago, but in the 2000s, there was an RFP, a request for proposals, to vintners in Italy to help create a vineyard project in Gorgona. And Lamberto Frescobaldi was actually the only person who responded, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he responded with a proposal. And as a result, they have this amazing project where the prisoners learn how to cultivate and tend to the vines, which are on beautiful stone terraces and different elevations, and make wine. So they get important skills so that if they get released, they can go find work in wineries, and some do.
Mhm.
I think they actually, Frescobaldi has a job placement program as well.
Yeah, there were a couple of prisoners who were out tending to the vines while we were there,
Mhm.
and we actually had a chance to speak with them, and they were very open about their incarceration and the fact that to be able to work with the vines was giving them a new purpose in life and a new skill and a new trade that they were hopeful. One of them said, "It would be my dream to work for the Frescobaldi family after I get out of prison,
Yeah.
working in one of their vineyards,"
Mhm.
because he really loved what he was doing.
It's a really great rehabilitation project.
Yeah,
So the
it's
first Gorgona,
The one thing they're not allowed to do is taste the wine.
yes,
They can help make it, but they can't taste it.
it's kind of like a dry county in Tennessee. Like Jack Daniels is in a dry county. You can't drink the hooch there, but you can buy it. So the first Gorgona, and it's Gorgona, Gorgona vintage, was released in 2012 and presented to the Department of the Penitentiary Administration, Rome. And in 2014, Frescobaldi signed an agreement with the correctional institution to hire the inmates directly so that they have more control and supervision, which is great. Because that is to say you're being trained by Frescobaldi. Wow, that's great. That's like an MBA in wine management. And they've done a lot of restoration. The inmates between 2015 and 17, they had to restore the terraces. There's some very old terraces. If you go to theconnectedtable.com, we have a really great blog post on it with some of the photos. And then they learn skills. We walked all around the island. I mean, it's a farm. We saw cattle.
It's a farm island with a penitentiary in the middle of it.
Right.
So it's interesting because they had cows, they had sheep, they had goats, they had chickens, they had all kinds of livestock as well. But they also they had a huge vegetable garden, which helped supply some of the food for the inmates to eat. So there were people working the farm aspect there. And then, of course, there was a lot of olive trees as well, because Tuscany is olive country.
Right.
And so just because it's an island off the coast doesn't mean you can't grow olives there. And they grew a lot of olives on the property as well. And you could see the terraced olive groves as well. And we walked through some of them. And then, of course, the vineyard terraces, which are newer. They were started in 2012 when the Frescobaldi family, Lamberto, came and started the project, and they're constantly updating them and also expanding them. So because it's becoming a bigger project, as the years go by,
and hopefully a pilot project. I kind of did some nosing around to see if they're going to take this to other prisons, because prison rehabilitation is so important.
Yeah. Well, one thing that Lamberto told us while we were on the island that day was that because he was there touring with us, wearing his suit all day long, which was crazy because it was a really hot day and we were all sweating. But he just kept that thing on all day. Yeah. Anyway, props to him for that. We were all boiling in the hot sun, but he loves the project. He loves the island. He loves making this project work, and it is really one of the favorite projects that he does every year. And he just signed a new agreement to keep it going for another, I think, 20 years.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, they should, because the wine is terrific, by the way. So it is a Gorgona Toscana IGT. It's a crisp, aromatic white wine made from Vermentino and Assonico. Very aromatic, and only 12.5% alcohol by volume. It is beautiful. There's a lot of there's a yellow flower in this area called Genestra. You get that floral, honeysuckle, citrus, bergamot flavors. It is so refreshing. So they had an official lunch on the terrace. Again, you would have thought you were at a fancy resort the way it was set up. You didn't see the prisoners were like way over there sunning.
Well,
in
they
their
were
little
also
area.
they were also helping serve the food at lunch and serve us coffee when we got there, and they served us
Oh.
water when we were out in the vineyard because it was a hot day.
Yeah, we had water stops.
I mean, it's not as if they can leave the island. It's a very long swim back to the mainland.
Yeah.
And they tend to be taken to Gorgona later in their prison terms, when they are somewhat rehabilitated already. And so the people that we all met, they were there, they knew what they were there for, and enjoyed it. There was one section off in the distance where new inmates were brought, and that was actually behind bars. But everybody that was mingling with us, they were not behind bars. They were just on the island serving their term and working whatever work job they had on the island, whether it was tending vines or tending sheep or cooking food.
So there were many guards around.
Yeah.
So you couldn't get too close. You couldn't get too close. So on this beautiful terrace, they had a priest who blessed the wine, and there was a ceremony, and there was a lot of VIPs, like a lot of it we didn't know them, but and there were some journalists we knew, and it was lovely. We had a light meal, we did the wine, we took lots of photos, and then we all got back on the boat and went back to Livorno. And that was that. It was a singular experience to get the feeling of this place. And it really was. When we posted our photos on social media, people were like, oh, this is great, I want to go, it's beautiful, because it really does look like when we left, there was like somebody sunbathing on the beach, and one of the writers like stripped down and started swimming, and we're like, this is like, it's hard to believe that this was a prison island. I don't know about you, I think it was my first active prison. The only other one I've been to is Alcatraz.
Well, originally
museum.
It was originally built as a convent, I believe, and the government took it over in 1869 to create a prison out of it. So it's been a prison for 150 years. Yeah. And but one of the reasons that they put this project together with the Frescobaldi family was because they were running out of money, and they were trying to figure out how to keep the prison alive. And this is one of the ways that they did it. It's
a great social impact project. Yeah. I'd like to see more of that done here in the United States. I know that when I lived in New York, they had a program at Rikers Island where people in the culinary industry would teach cooking skills to the inmates, and then they could get out and have jobs. Because one of the hardest things is when you're in prison, from what I understand, is finding work afterward. And that's very hard, that re-entry. So programs that teach culinary skills, viticulture, any kind of trade are very valuable. Yeah. I am curious to follow the Gorgona project to see if other prisoners of penitentiaries do similar programs around. And I'm sure they are, and we're just not aware of them. But this one was unique because of the aspect of wine. As you said, the prisoners can't taste the wine, but they can make the wine. So it was great. So we actually went to Gorgona first and did the prison trip. And then we did a night in Florence, and then went on to Nipozzano, which was, like going from literally a prison to a castle. It was incredible. And so we want to thank the Frescobaldi family for setting this up. It was singular. We can't wait to go visit some of the other states, but this was really a special experience. And as we said, you can only go to Gorgona one day in June. Yeah. So we just happened to be in Italy. So it was very special. And we wanted to share it with all of you. Now you're probably wondering, can we get these wines in the United States? And the answer is yes. Frescobaldi works with Vintus.
Vintus imports, and Vintus is based in New York.
Yes.
And it's a wonderful importing company. We should have Michael Vintus on the show.
We should. And they recently signed an agreement to carry almost all of the Frescobaldi wines from all the estates. So if you go to the Vintus, VINTS website, you can learn about Gorgona. You can see more incredible photos there and get some trade information if you so. I think the wine is like $30-something, but don't quote me. I don't have a suggestion, but it's over 30, I know.
But it is very small production.
Very small.
So it's a limited production that usually sells out fairly quickly. But in the current vintage, of course, is the 2024.
Right. Yeah. And the Montessori and the Nipozzano Reserva are on the Vintage website. I didn't see Morametto. I don't know why, but maybe they do. But anyway, if you go to vintus.com, you can learn more. And if you go to frescobaldi.it, you can read about all the different Frescobaldi estates and the history of this incredible family, which dates back so many ways. But I want to tell you, they have a noble heritage, and that sounds like, oh wow, they're unapproachable. They are the nicest people
They really are.
ever. We've spent a couple times, we've run into Lamberto and his daughter in Italy. They are the nicest people ever. And we want to thank Lorenzo Portaro, who was the winemaker at Nipozzano. He was so knowledgeable and so welcoming. We just had a very positive experience. So we really wanted just to show it to you today on the Connected Table.
Yeah, we can't wait to get back to Rufina.
Yeah.
Not so quickly to Gorgona. But for obvious reasons. However, that's probably a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
That was a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
But to get back to Rufin and try more of the Nipozzano wines, and then also some of the other producers over there, would be a great experience.
Yeah, hopefully that'll be a 2026 trip, because they've reached out and we just couldn't make it work this time. But I'm sure we'll do that. So stay tuned. And anyway, check out these wines, check out the property. And as we said, you can visit Castello Nipozzano if you plan to be in Tuscany, and it's definitely worth a visit. So we're going to keep this show short and sweet, and hope you enjoyed our little quick visit to Tuscany here on the Connected Table. You can read more about this and these wineries at theconnectedtable.com. Follow us there, or on our Substack, The Connected Table. We have many ways for you to find us. And of course, you can hear all our shows on demand anytime on more than 65 podcast channels, and check out the Connected Table TV on YouTube. We're everywhere you want to be. So take us with you on your next trip, and always travel with curiosity and stay insatiably curious. Thank you.